Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM, great to welcome back from the Greater Wellington Regional Council, Penny Gaylor. Penny, good morning.
Good morning.
Penny, I see that one of the major political parties has announced a policy to move public transport into the electric future. And I'm just wondering, because the Greater Wellington Regional Council have put a fair bit of work into this, and I think they've found out that moving into electric public transport isn't possibly as simple as they thought it was. A lot of people still bemoaning the taking down of the trolley lines, the dear old trolley buses that seem to do the job so well in Wellington. I know there were drawbacks, but moving into the battery-powered buses just does not seem to have been simple. What's your impression about how feasible that is?
Well, it's feasible. It's just not a quick fix for, okay, let's put an order and they'll come in next month. It's not like doing your shopping online for your groceries, and so that's simple. There's actually, batteries are overseas. We've, got some in to Wellington that we've got produced from China. We bring them in and we test them for our local conditions, get our drivers driving them. Proof of concept stuff is actually a very important part of any kind of big investment and big project. So, when you're talking like hundreds of millions of dollars of spend, you want to make sure you get it right. So best spend first up front, kind of a first amount, get that right in the project, and then roll it out. So, we've been going through that project. Yes. To be honest, I'd love whoever's promising us to chuck massive amounts of money, and we can absolutely nail that in terms of carbon neutral public transport for our buses, particularly. That's a commitment Regional Council made last year when we'd been talking about it for a time. Circling around the issue for a time, and then as a number of councils did last year, we moved last August into a declaration of emergency. Then we moved at that same meeting in August, we put in our goals around being carbon neutral by 2030 as an organisation, and we took the progressive and rather bold statement that included our bus network.
Yep.
So, absolutely, this is nothing I'm going to argue with, and love to have government spend on it, because we can't do it all on our own, to be honest.
But, okay, I'll just get back to the feasibility side of things, because you do have battery-powered buses. Some of the double-deckers running around Wellington are battery-powered. And I must say, whenever I hop into a double-decker that is not, I have a great sinking feeling in my stomach when I hear the diesel engine rev up. So why, having put in the infrastructure, having proved that things work, why did you have some of them on diesel and some of them on battery?
It's just cost, really, because, and also it was the timing of things. We needed to get new vehicles and improve the vehicles that were on the network, but we couldn't afford to, and it was a risk to the business to actually go the whole hog straight away. As I say, if you haven't actually done the proof of concept, as I say, when you're spending a lot of money, if you haven't done the actual testing and making sure you get it right for the conditions and for the ability of people to drive them, the customers to like them, the whole experience, that would have been imagine if that goes wrong. I'll just say it like that. Okay. Imagine if it goes wrong. So you've got to make sure it doesn't go wrong. Yeah.
We're there now. We've had the proof of concept. You know what you know, and you know more than you did. So what have you found out? Are they reliable, and is it goable in terms of range, which I think is always the anxiety with electric vehicles? Is it practical?
So that's the thing you then need to do, is you kind of go, well, we've got a whole of network that we need to look at, and so we don't have all these charging stations in all the right places. So we've, that's a big investment in itself into the network, just the, not just the buses. So, that would be part of the whole package of the costs for us too as an organisation. And then, again, sure, we can put in an order for buses, but you've got to do all the work to get those charging stations in, get the bus stops right, get the whole, there were a lot of things that have taken too much time in that first bus transformation project, that is now 2 years ago, when we went live with it 2 years ago in July in the Wellington area, that things had not been completed. The whole bus hubs, that took so much longer than what we had foreseen as a whole project. So, it was virtually a year down the track, till longer than what had been anticipated, and we have to work as a regional council with other councils. The other thing too is that the whole timing and phasing of these kind of big project rollouts is, meanwhile, other organisations, bus companies, have invested into buses and a certain amount of money, and now they have them. And so what we'd have to kind of do is look at bringing in those other buses and phasing out those other buses, and where do they go to? Meanwhile, private companies have made significant investments as a business into those new buses. So, yeah.
So all of this means that electrification of the bus fleet is going to take some time. Even if the technology is perfect now, it's going to take some time to phase out the old dungers, in fact, some of them are new dungers, aren't they? Belching out the diesel fumes.
Well, the whole thing is they're not so much belching it out as, we've had 25% decrease in the amount of emissions that they are putting out. So things like that have certainly made significant improvements right across the network. That's the whole point of the way it was done, I guess, because, this wasn't in the last 2 years this all happened, or the 2 years before we went live 2 years ago. It was 10 years in the making. But I have to say, all the feedback that we hear as councillors is that the customers are really happy with those electric buses.
Yes.
They want more.
Yes.
So I think, the message to any political party that is making those kind of promises, yes, the customers are happy. The customers want more of this. So then their customers, or our customers as bus users, might be ratepayers, but they're also taxpayers. So to me, the message is we're hearing nothing but good things from the customer's experience, and from our community's experience. Absolutely, the concern around the cost of all this. So that's why you can't ever spend money in local government where you put too much risk into a project. You have to do things with the very clear line of sight about how do you manage the risks here. And that's financial risks, that's delivery risks, that's construction risks, delays in international companies being able to provide you with buses, or whatever kind of parts of the infrastructure. Because, so it's just, there's a lot of moving parts, as they say. And a lot of it's dependent on other companies we buy things from, the ability for them to produce it. Having the conversation about we'd love to, put in the order tomorrow for new trains. Oh, sorry, I would. And yes. I know lots of other people would like to do that too. But actually, trying to find an international company that will just spit out, 17 trains like what we want, versus actually putting in an order for 200 is what they're going to pay attention to. So because of the scale, we have a bit of an issue of that too. So, you can't pick and choose the places. Like I say, it's not like, a certain supermarket's online shopping where you just, punch in the numbers and boom, you're good to go. It's quite an undertaking.
And I imagine that the kind of supply issues you're describing are even more acute at a time of a global pandemic, that there may be some companies who would be difficult or maybe diffident in terms of signing up a contract, which means they have to deliver at a certain time when they're not sure what their workforce is going to be.
Yes, and then, I'm in some conversations last week with people about waste management, and they were saying about the New Zealand waste of paper that had been going to China, that's closed off, now it's going to India. But there's something they were saying that, that might stop very soon because you can't get ships into those ports.
That's
and of course, we're hearing more and more about, flights from India with, COVID on it. So we'll be going, yep, we'll stop that, but we might not have a choice. So it's very uncertain, time in terms of that. But, it wouldn't be in the next 6 months you'd be rolling anything off anyway.
Right. Thank you, Penny. Penny Gaylor. Perhaps we can talk again sometime.
Excellent. Yes, please.
106.3 Beach FM.